India's maritime sector plays a crucial role in global trade, with 95% of trade by volume and 75% by value being conducted through maritime transport. In FY24, India's key ports handled 817.97 million tons of cargo traffic, reflecting a 4.5% growth from 784.305 million tons in FY23. Positioned at a strategic crossroads, Indian territorial waters serve as a major route for cargo ships traveling between East Asia, America, Europe, and Africa. With a 7,516 long coastline and over 200 ports, India is on the brink of a maritime transformation. Today's conclave on sustainable logistics for Viksit Bharat aims to explore and harness the immense potential of our coastline for a sustainable and prosperous future. I now request everybody to kindly stand up for the national anthem. Thank you.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
We now proceed with the lamp lighting. I would like to invite the advisory board members, Shri Rajiv Jalota IAS, Captain B.K. Tyagi, Shri Dhyaneshwar Balachandra Patil IAS, Ms. Pinky Mehta, Mr. S. Hajara, Mr. Ravi Ramachandran, Mr. Anil Radhakrishnan, Mr. C.R. Nambiar, Captain Ram Iyer, Mr. Jagan Narayan Padmanabhan, and Mr. Sandeep Khosla to kindly come on. I would also like to request Shri Sanjay Swaroop to come on the dais. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. I would like to invite Shri Rajiv Jalota IAS, Ms. Pinky Mehta, Mr. Anil Radhakrishnan, and Mr. Jagan Narayan Padmanabhan onto the dais. Thank you. To begin today's discussions, it is my pleasure to invite Ms. Pinky Mehta, President of the Bombay Chamber and CFO of Aditya Birla Capital Limited, to deliver the introductory remarks.
Thank you. Good morning. Warm welcome to each one of you. Mr. Amitabh Kantji, Shri Sanjay Swaroop, Shri Rajiv Jalota, distinguished guests, distinguished speakers, past presidents, and board members of Bombay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to all of you at 12th Biennial International Conference of Sport for Ports, Shipping and Logistics 2025. At the outset, I would like to brief you about the Bombay Chamber. Bombay Chamber has been playing a proactive role in India's development for the last 189 years. The Chamber serves as an effective vehicle of communication between the regulatory bodies, the corporate world, and the society at large. I have a privilege to mention that of its several thousand members encompassing the wide spectrum of industry houses, one-third represents large corporates and the remaining two-thirds represents SME sector. It is very interesting to note that more than a dozen of the large corporates have been our members for more than 100 years. I have the proud privilege to mention that this year's mission is an attempt to marry the rich legacy of the Chamber with the opportunities that can be unleashed in its new global world by working together as an India Inc. We believe that more we come together as a leader of India Inc. and work with the government and the regulators, higher will be the value we can unlock for all of us. This collaborative development towards a Viksit Bharat will have four critical aspects: embracing digitizations, bringing ESG at the heart of the business, enhancing ease of doing business, and fostering diversity, equity, and inclusion. Considering the context, Bombay Chamber has undertaken and very actively engaged in activities in align with our mission. And let me name few of them. The Chamber's main area of operation includes advocacy in almost all areas, both to the government as well as the judiciary. The Chamber has many subcommittees with an eminent members who regularly interpret the new notifications and laws apart from the state and annual budget. These committees take feedback from the members and make representations to the government. Bombay Chamber conducts over 100 seminars, webinars every year. We successfully hosted 15 AgriCorp conference, enriching FPO in Pune, post-budget sessions. Many of these initiatives are specially tailored to support the MSME sector and the EXIM community. The Chamber has also helped their members in facilitations of business visas and issuing a certificate of origin for exporters. In fact, Bombay Chamber is one of the leading organizations to issue digital COO. The Chamber also has a labor advisory wing, which plays a crucial role in employer-employee relations and in recent years has started the mediation wing. The port shipping and the logistic community of Bombay Chamber is one of the most vibrant industry communities. It has been evolved with several activities pertaining to awareness, training, advocacy, and business networking. An International Maritime Conference has been one of such important activity. From the year 1998, the Bombay Chamber initiated these maritime conferences. It has covered a wide range of topics and continues to be the lead and maintain distinctiveness through the well-articulated recommendations and strategy papers which provided roadmaps for creating the facilitative environment to enhance growth and development of the maritime sector and thereby a strong economy. As you are aware, that the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi has envisaged the Viksit Bharat, where India emerges as a global economic powerhouse. A crucial pillar of this vision is sustainable logistics, which ensures seamless, efficient, and environmentally responsible movement of goods and service. To achieve this, the Government of India has undertaken the several initiatives focusing on green mobility, digital transformations, and infrastructure modernization. These efforts are enhancing supply chain resilience, reducing carbon footprints, and improving the overall logistics efficiency. As a result, India is making a significant strides in the global competitiveness, paving the way for the sustainable, future-ready logistic ecosystem that supports its ambitious growth trajectory. Bombay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which reflects the pulse of the industry and trade, mainly in the Western India region, has decided to take this inspirational awakening to the different platforms so that it reaches to all segments of the commercial society itself. Considering the context, the 12th edition of our flagship conference is titled as Sustainable Logistics for Viksit Bharat. This conference will examine the solutions for improving efficiencies of end-to-end logistics in India, keeping customer in focus by deliberating on areas such as sustainability and green initiatives, digitizations, connectivity, cybersecurity in Indian logistics, shipbuilding, and the role of women in maritime sectors, among others. The conference will see industry stalwarts bring their diverse perspectives to the panel discussions and facilitate an enriching experience. I would like to thank you all for taking time from your busy schedule and joining us today, and request all of you to take an optimal benefit of this session by making them interactive. I would now hand over to Gayatri to take this conference forward. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I now invite Sri Rajiv Jalota, IAS, former chairperson of Mumbai Port Authority, to set the theme for the day.
A very good morning to all our esteemed dignitaries on the dais and those off the dais. I welcome you all on behalf of Bombay Chamber of Commerce and Industry for this biennial Shipping and Logistics Conference, having chaired its advisory committee. These are exciting times when our Honorable Prime Minister has pushed for a Viksit Bharat by 2047, and his extremely progressive government is walking the talk for making India future ready in its endeavor to achieve a $30 trillion economy by 2047. The ports and logistics sector is poised to play a critical role in achieving this goal. The global logistics market was valued at approximately $11.26 trillion in 2024 and is expected to reach $20.74 trillion by 2034, growing at a CAGR of 6.3% during this period. The Indian logistics sector is projected to grow from $321 billion in 2024 to $768 billion by 2032. Economic growth is not possible without the growth in logistics, and that too green and efficient logistics. Recognizing this, Government of India has undertaken several initiatives to reduce carbon intensity, enhance non-fossil fuel energy sources, and promote green supply chains to position itself as a global leader in sustainable logistics. There are ambitious expectations from the industry and private sector to participate and contribute to nation building. I will now give you a brief overview of the global trade, logistics, and sustainable aspects. Global GDP growth slowed to 2.7% in 2023, down from 3.1% in 2022. Developing economies outpaced developed ones, growing at 4.1% compared to 1.7%. The logistics sector will continue to play a pivotal role in boosting global trade and commerce, especially within the expanding Asian economies. Developing economies drove global maritime trade volumes, loading 55% and unloading 70% of the seaborne goods in 2021. Developing Asia led the way with 42% loaded and 64% unloaded, cementing its role as a supply chain hub, and this is going to grow further. As per UNCTAD Review of Maritime Transport 2024, the global maritime trade grew by 2.4% to 12.3 billion tons in 2023, recovering from a 2022 contraction, but the recovery remains fragile. The sector is projected to grow by 2% in 2024 and an average of 2.4% annually through 2029. Key choke points like the Suez and Panama canals are increasingly vulnerable to geopolitical tensions, conflicts, and climate change. Ton miles increased by 4.2% due to longer shipping distances from disruptions in the Suez and Panama canals, further straining supply chains, adding to GHG emissions from shipping with profound impacts on the food security, energy supplies, and the global economy, as over 80% of the world trade volume is carried by sea. Political instability in the oil producing regions has also caused volatility in fuel prices. By diversifying supply chains, investing in new technologies, and maintaining flexibility, we can successfully navigate these challenges. In 2023, the global shipping fleet grew by 3.4%, surpassing trade growth but still below historical averages. Total cargo capacity reached 2.4 billion tons. Growth was driven primarily by container ships and liquefied LNG carriers, though bulk carriers and oil tankers actually contribute to hold the largest share, making up to 71% of the total fleet capacity. Shipping accounts for 3% of the GHG emissions. International shipping comprises about 70% of global shipping energy emissions, while national or domestic shipping accounts for the remaining 30% of the emissions. Despite growing pressure, the aging global fleet is renewing slowly due to high costs, uncertainty over future fuels, and low ship scrapping rates. By early 2024, only 14% of the new tonnage was alternative fuel ready, with 50% fuel capable. Failure to accelerate decarbonization could lead to higher costs, regulatory penalties, and a loss of competitiveness as markets increasingly prioritize sustainability. There is wide consensus in the industry that as shipping companies work towards net zero till 2050, more ships using new and emerging fuels make their way into the global fleet. Ports must prepare to facilitate vessel calls and safe bunkering operations in a manner that aligns with their strategic objectives. Ports with a clear view on the future port readiness level are more likely candidates for green shipping corridor projects that will become a norm for the future. Efficiency in operations by way of connectivity improvement, digitalization, gender inclusivity, and skilled workforce is also very critical as we move towards Viksit Bharat. Digitalization through blockchain, AI, and automation is key to improving port operations. Ports that have adopted these technologies report reduced waiting times, better cargo trapping, and more efficient transshipment. Asia is leading the way, with the region's ports making significant strides in digital port management. Handling over 63% of the global container port calls, they have maintained efficiency thanks to technological advancements. As our ports and logistics sector is making technology a part of our day-to-day operations, the risks associated with port safety and cyber security also need to be managed well. Realizing the vision of Viksit Bharat, however, will require addressing a raft of challenges that the sector faces. For one, the core port infrastructure must be upgraded to keep up with the emerging trends in the transport industry. As ship sizes increase and cargo demand grows, ports have to become mega or larger and deeper with smart infrastructure. Our EXIM cargo handling was almost 1.6 billion tons in 2024, which is slated to be around 5.4 billion tons by 2047. In addition to the core infrastructure, the development of enabling infrastructure such as roads, railways, industrial clusters, and multimodal logistics parks is of utmost importance. Two, for the core infrastructure to work efficiently. Indian Railways has set an ambitious target to increase its freight traffic to 3.3 billion tons by 2030, up from 1.2 billion tons in 2019. In India, road transport is predominant mode of freight movement, handling about 70% of the country's domestic freight as of 2024. India has already announced its green hydrogen mission, and the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways has taken critical steps for developing green hydrogen hubs in ports of Kandla, Tuticorin, and Paradip. You will also witness the glimpses of the Hull Cleaning Challenge competition that was refreshing addition to this edition of the biennial conference. Over the full day conference today, we will be discussing and brainstorming on these important aspects in greater detail. This context sets the stage for discussing India's ports and logistics sector development, highlighting the challenges, opportunities, and initiatives underway to achieve the country's economic and sustainability goals towards a Viksit Bharat. I'd exhort all of you to join us on this day in engaging debates and valuable insights. I believe your active participation will not only enrich the deliberations but also provide a unique opportunity for you to network, learn, and make the day truly unforgettable for you. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. It is our privilege to welcome Mr. Jagan Narayan Padmanabhan, Practice Head and Senior Director, Transport, Logistics and Mobility at CRISIL, as he delivers his presentation on strategic recommendations, key observations, and insights from the industry survey. May I kindly invite Mr. Padmanabhan?
Thank you, Bombay Chamber of Commerce. It's an extreme privilege and pleasure to be here and presenting the interactions that we have had with the industry on what have been the issues, challenges, and solutions more so on addressing this important part of sustainable logistics for Viksit Bharat. As Mr. Jalota ji had kind of mentioned, see, 95% of India's trade by volume and 65% by value is through the maritime transport. So this is an important aspect in the logistics value chain, and that's what we will kind of dwell upon today. As of March 2024, the India ports capacity is at about 2.62 trillion tons, which is there, and the traffic handled is at about 1.435 trillion tons. So, and the traffic has grown at about 4%, while the capacity has grown at about 7% in the same period. And if you see, 9 major ports in India ranks in the top 100 of the World Bank 2023 ranking. And this is the part of the Container Port Performance Index, which is there. Some of the key highlights which is there as part of the 2030 and the 2047 vision, which has been prepared by the Government of India, is out here with respect to the ports, shipping, and waterways. Not going into each of those specific points as such, but the idea is that a strong pipeline of maritime projects are envisaged for the next decade and plus or so. And if you see the total port capacity, the expectation is an increase of about 5.5%, which is there, and about the for 2047 and for 2030 it is at about 4%. And similar growth is expected in the waterways part of it also, handling at about 200 metric ton per annum for 2030, and in 2047 this is expected to be at 500 metric ton per annum. And these are some of the aspirations which has been put across for 2047 for the maritime sector. So we are looking at 4 to 6 new mega port coming in. 100% of the Indian cargo transshipments will be handled at Indian ports, and 100% of the major ports which will be on a landlord model. We'll be among the top 5 global ranking in shipbuilding and ship repair, and 40% of share of the Indian seafarers across the globe would be from India. Currently it is at about 10 to 12%. The other important terms in terms of the efficiency aspects, if you were to look at it, the average dwell time is expected to be at less than 24 hours, and that would mean a significant amount of digitization which will have to happen. The average vessel turnaround time to be done at less than 16 hours is the other, some of the aspirations which is there for the ports and the maritime sector. Now, the deliberations happened on 3 key pillars which were there. So first is the development of the core infrastructure, that is the port and allied parts of it. The second is to drive efficiency through functional and operational improvements. So that is the second part which would be there. So there is a core, then the efficiency aspects which needs to be pushed across. The third is the enabler for ports. So that's where the logistics parts comes in. So in terms of the connectivity of the projects, port-led industrialization, warehousing, logistics parks, and so on and so forth. So I think these are the three key pillars in which we had the deliberations. I'm happy to say that about close to 9 working groups were there, and more than about 30 odd participants participated in that, and thanks to BCCI for organizing all of that. And that's what has been brought out in our knowledge paper, which will be available for you to have a look at it. And some of the glimpses I will take you through in this particular session as well. The first is the development of the core infrastructure. So the current projection and the way that we have put across is three aspects which are there. One is the capacity enhancement. The second is the development of greenfield ports, which is there. And the third is the maritime clusters. So that's the core which is getting enabled out here. On the capacity part of it, as we have seen in the first couple of slides, the expansion is at about 7.2% at the major ports, and 4.4% is there at about in the non-major ports for the last 9-year period. The traffic has only increased at about 3.87%. So the capacity has overtaken in terms of, meaning the supply has been more than the demand as such, which is there. And at the major ports, this is going to be increasing at about 1.7%. And much of this would be done through the PPP part of it. Currently, this is at about 60%. This will go up to 95%. That's what is the expectation is. But that's the good part of it. The issues and challenge part, if you were to look at it, there is a regional disparity in the port capacity part of it, which is there. So the northwest of the India is facing a lot of congestion. The southeast has sufficient capacity, and there needs to be a more balanced utilization which needs to be there. So that is how the port planning can be looked at it. The second is in the greenfield ports. We have seen the developments which is happening with respect to the Vadhavan part and then the Galathea Bay. These are the two, greenfield mega ports which are being coming up, which is there. And Tuna-Tikra, which is done by DP World, is of about close to 300, which is coming up, and then the KPL is also coming up. So by 2047, we are expecting about 300 million metric ton of new capacity coming through. But the issue out here is in terms of the financing part of it. So these are large projects which are coming in. The availability of finance is a big issue, and long-term sustainable finance. And when I say sustainable finance, means at appropriate rates of interest is a big issue and challenge which is there. The third part of it on the core is the maritime cluster. So today it is about 2% of the global ship tonnage, which is there, and the overall aspiration is to increase this from a shipbuilding, ship recycling, and so on and so forth. But the domestic demand as such for ship manufacturing and the availability again for long-term finance is quite limited. So that's again a challenge which is there. So these are some of the deliberations which happen as far as the core part of the infrastructure is there. The second which we moved on was on the operational and the functional improvements which is there. And here again, there are 4 specific parts that we looked at it. One is the digitization. The second is the green ports which are coming up. Then the third is the maritime education, which is an important part, training and research, and the women in the maritime sector, the participation, all of them. So the current one on the digitization part, if you were to look at it, there is a lot of initiations which has happened. But today, these are not completely interoperable between each other. So I think that is the key focus which needs to be happening going forward. On the green ports, industry has become very conscious of the importance of having sustainable infrastructure coming in through. But still, there is a lot of improvement which is needed. And here, the investments which are needed is also something which needs to be deliberated upon, and the resources part of it. So again, the finance-related issues comes in for the development of the green ports, which is there. On the maritime education, there is a vision which is there, but today institutions not collaborating with the industry in a cohesive manner. There is a dearth of trained faculty which is there, and we are expecting about, as we saw in the initial slides, about 40% of the seafarers to be done from India, then there's a lot more which needs to be done in terms of the education part of it. The last one is the women in the maritime sector. This is one, we have a separate session as well for this, but a lot more needs to be done in this particular area as well. The third pillar was the enabler, where the deliberations happen, which is very critical in terms of the connectivity related aspects which comes into the port development. So for the port to function very effectively, this is a cornerstone where a lot of development needs to happen. If you have to put it in perspective, the port connectivity projects, the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor and the Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor, much of it is functional. But if you were to look at today, JNPA, which is one of the country's, eminent ports, even that from a Western Dedicated Freight Corridor, the last mile connectivity is still not done. And if you were to look at the non-major ports, the issues in terms of rail connectivity still continues to exist. There's a lot which is done on the roads part of it, but the rail connectivity for non-major ports is still not into the optimum level. Then the second pillar is on the port-led industrialization. The whole special economic zones which came up in the year 2000, from a China model perspective, was all focused on the special economic zone, but that has really not taken up in the true nature which has come up. So if the whole traffic needs to grow up to match to the particular capacity, there's a lot more which needs to be done in the industrialization from a port-led part of it. The delays due to land acquisition, environmental clearance, so on and so forth, has actually played this particular initiative which is there. The third and the important one is the warehousing and the logistics part of it. So MMLTs has been planned across India. A lot of initiatives has been taken up by CONCOR, NHLML, and so on and so forth. But here again, the land acquisition, the time part of it, the cost part of it is all plaguing this particular sector. So some of the recommendations which came across from our deliberations is, one is the comprehensive planning part of it. Some of it has already happened, but more needs to be done. Though the Gati Shakti portal does help in the comprehensive planning, but I think a lot more can be done in terms of having all of these functions come together. We talked about the financial and the funding part of it, be it for large mega projects like the greenfield projects which are there, or for areas which is new in technologies, which is in the green related aspects. There is a financial and the funding barrier which is there. The use of digitalization to enhance efficiency is an extremely important part of it. It's a very dynamic and ever-changing world which is there, and the adoption of AI and blockchain in a manner which can drive a lot more seamless integration by the port and outside the port, and that is what is needed, which is there. And the policy support, which is there more so for the land acquisition part, like we spoke on the connectivity related ones for the rail or the road or for the port-led industrialization. There's a lot of need for policy support from the government in terms of the acquisition of these lands part of it. The skill development and the sustainability, this is probably lesser said, but the most important part of it. If we were to have such global aspirations, the need for trained labor and people who can drive this efficiently is an important aspect. And the sustainability is something which we can't wish out of, and hence the need for implementation of these zero discharge policies, green ports, waste treatment plants, so on and so forth. I think these are the things which came out as the deliberations which we had as part of the overall interaction which is there. Thank you very much. And we have a paper which has been put out. Request all of you to have a look at that as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Padmanabhan, I request you to kindly come back on stage. And I would request Mr. Sandeep Khosla, our Director General, to kindly present a memento to Mr. Padmanabhan as a token of our appreciation. Thank you. As Mr. Amitabh Kant, India's G20 Sherpa and former CEO of Niti Aayog, is unable to join us in person today, unfortunately, he will deliver his keynote address via a video message, which we will now play on the screen.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, with over 7,500 kilometers of coastline, which contributes around 4% to its GDP and handles 95% of its trade by volume through maritime routes, India has a unique advantage in the blue economy, including fisheries, tourism, shipping, and renewable energy. Our ocean resources have the potential to generate millions of jobs, stimulate economic growth, and contribute to the nation's prosperity. As we stand at the threshold of a new era in global trade, India is poised to play a significant role in shaping the future of this industry. And I'm excited to share with you the opportunities and challenges that lie ahead. Sustainable logistics is the backbone of the blue economy. It involves the efficient and environmentally responsible transportation of goods and services across the globe. As we are poised to become the world's third largest economy by 2027, India has a critical role to play in promoting sustainable logistic practices. By investing in green shipping technologies, optimizing supply chain management, and developing our port and logistics infrastructure, we can reduce carbon emissions, minimize environmental degradation, and increase the efficiency of our trade. With IMEC, the India-Middle East Economic Corridor, a vast coastline and a growing economy for the next 25 decades, or 25 years, or almost 2.5 decades, India is strategically located at the crossroads of international trade, and our role in shaping the future of this industry cannot be overstated. By leveraging our strengths in IT, innovation, and entrepreneurship, we can create a logistics sector that is not only efficient but also sustainable. The government has launched several initiatives and policies to promote the blue economy and sustainable logistics, including the Sagarmala program for port-led development, reducing logistic costs and accelerating economic growth. There are 839 projects worth investment of approximately 5.8 lakh crore for implementation under the Sagarmala program. Out of these, 241 projects worth 1.22 lakhs have been completed. The National Maritime Policy provides a framework for promoting maritime trade, shipping, and logistics with an emphasis on sustainability. The National Maritime Policy provides a framework for promoting maritime trade, shipping, and logistics with an emphasis on sustainability and environment. India's Maritime Amrit Kal Vision 2047 is a flagship initiative aiming to modernize ports, improve shipping infrastructure, and promote renewable marine engineering energy with an investment target of close to 35,000 crore by 2047. The Green Port Policy aims to develop eco-friendly ports incorporating features such as solar energy, wind energy, and green buildings. Economic growth and job creation. The expansion of the maritime sector spurred growth in coastal tourism and shipping industries, generating new employment opportunities in port cities and coastal areas. Moreover, financial assistance and nutritional support schemes for coastal communities have improved livelihoods to a great extent. Ladies and gentlemen, while we have made significant progress, there are still challenges to be addressed. We need to invest in developing our port and logistical infrastructure, develop the skills of our workforce, and create a comprehensive regulatory framework to support the adoption of sustainable logistical practices. But I am confident that with the right policies, investments, and partnerships, we can overcome these challenges and unlock the full potential of the blue economy. So, ladies and gentlemen, what can we do to shape the future of global trade? Firstly, we must invest in green shipping technologies like green hydrogen and fuels of the future and optimize our supply chain management. Secondly, we must develop our port and logistical infrastructure with focus on sustainability and environmental conservation. Thirdly, we must create a comprehensive regulatory framework to support the adoption of sustainable logistical practices. Ladies and gentlemen, ESG integrated infra is the way forward. ESG integration is critical for infrastructure projects. Evaluation of the potential environmental impact of projects on factors like biodiversity, resource use, and possible energy transition is a vital prior to investment. Similarly, prioritizing investments in research and innovation is critical. Additionally, stringent regulation of offshore and deep sea resource exploration and extraction alongside sustainable private investment is crucial. And finally, we must work together, government, industry, civil society, to promote the blue economy and sustainable logistics. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, by leveraging our strengths, investing in green technologies and promoting sustainable practices, we can shape the future of global trade and create a more prosperous, sustainable, and equitable world for all. So my plea to all of you is that we should all work together to unlock the full potential of the blue economy and create a brighter future for our nation and the world. Finally, I would like to congratulate Mr. Rajiv Jalota for taking this important initiative and promoting the practice of a blue economy and sustainable logistics in shipping and port sector, which are key players in Indian economy and global trade. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
We'd like to thank Mr. Amitabh Kant for delivering his keynote address. We're now pleased to unveil the strategy paper on sustainable logistics for Viksit Bharat. To mark this occasion, I invite Sri Sanjay Swarup and the advisory board members on stage, Sri Rajiv Jalota IAS, Captain B.K. Tyagi, Sri Jnaneshwar Balachandra Patil IAS, Ms. Pinky Mehta, Mr. S. Hajara, Mr. Ravi Ramachandran, Mr. Anil Radhakrishnan, Mr. C.R. Nambiar, Captain Ram Iyer, Mr. Jagan Narayan Padmanabhan, and Mr. Sandeep Khosla. Thank you. A round of applause, please. Thank you so much. Thank you. I now have the pleasure of inviting Sri Sanjay Swarup, Chairman and Managing Director of Concor, to deliver the special address on rail connectivity and multimodal integration for a sustainable logistics network in India. Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm good morning to all of you. At the outset, I will like to thank Bombay Chamber of Commerce and Industry for giving me an opportunity to present my views. So, in this session, all of the speakers have mostly talked about the port-led development. I would like to give a perspective on the connectivity from port to hinterland, what we are doing and what we will be doing in the future. We are future ready to handle the addition in the cargo and to take our country for Viksit Bharat dream of our Honorable Prime Minister. As we all know, Indian Railways is the largest rail network of Asia. And in the last financial year, it has moved around 1.6 billion metric ton of cargo, which was ever highest in the railway's history. But it is facing a problem of congestion and line capacity saturation. 60% of goods traffic in Indian Railways is moving on 16% of route kilometers. That is a golden quadrilateral that we call in railways terminology. But railways took a very, good step seeing the future of cargo in our country. and they conceived dedicated freight corridors. So that was a key initiative of railways, around 2,800 kilometers, Eastern plus Western DFC. Eastern DFC is 100% complete. Western DFC also, only last 100 kilometers short of Nhava Sheva is remaining, which my DFC friends have told that by December 2025, that will be completed. DFC gives lot of benefits to the cargo users in terms of faster transit time, reliable supply chains in given volatile EXIM markets, optimum utilization, and reduction in overall logistics cost for the customers, which is a major thing for shippers and to make our exports competitive in international markets. Container Corporation, CONCOR, which I represent, it's the multimodal logistics arm of Indian Railways. We are a customer-focused and performance-driven logistics company. We were incorporated in March 1988, and we were granted Navratna status in 2014 by Government of India. Government holds around at 54.8% in our company. We are a listed company on stock exchange. And just to give you a perspective, we have 66 terminals throughout the country. We are present everywhere in the country. We are continuously expanding our network. And by 2030, we are expected to be present at 80 locations in the country. We own our own domestic containers, and this fleet will increase to 75,000 by 2030. We have our own container rakes, container trains for transportation of containers between our terminals and between gateway ports and our terminals. And we own around 383 rakes as on date, which will also increase to 500 rakes by 2030 to serve the ever-increasing demand in logistics. We also provide, we are very conscious about ESG norms. So we have deployed LNG trailers for the first time in logistics in our country. We have around 130 LNG trailers because, you know, in South India, because of peninsular distances being very less, the rail transportation becomes uncompetitive commercially. So we have gone for road transportation by deploying LNG trailers in a big way. So this fleet also we are increasing. By 2030, we will have 500 LNG trailers in the country for road transportation, which is a green fuel. We were ranked 248th in Fortune 500 list. And last year, we had the highest turnover in company's history, more than $1.1 billion if we take in that currency. And we had handled 4.7 million TEUs in 2023-24. This year, we are poised to cross 5 million TEUs for the first time in company's history. We have, this is just a view of our network. That is, we are spread throughout the country. This is a map of DFC, Dedicated Freight Corridor, which most of you would have seen. Eastern DFC, Western DFC. It is meeting at a place near our terminal. And we have a multimodal logistic park at Dadri, which is situated at the junction of both the DFCs. We have started running trains, double stack trains on DFC from our MMLP at Khatwas from 2013. It has been a great success for our company. From MMLP Dadri, which got connected to DFC in 2023, also we started running double stack trains. And this DFC has resulted in a very big reduction in transit time, which was very good efficiency in operations, welcomed by all of our customers. In collaboration with Indian Railways, we are running freight express trains from our MMLP Dadri to Mundra Port. I am happy to inform the audience that it is taking 38 to 40 hours for a double stack train, freight express train, to cover a distance of 1,200 kilometers from Dadri to Mundra Port, whereas road is taking 55 to 60 hours. So it is much, much faster than road. And we have tweaked with the tariff. We have brought down our tariff. which has given us 15% additional shift from road to rail. This has been a big success story of CONCOR and Indian Railways, thanks to DFC, commissioning of DFC to Mundra Port and Dadri. Now we are looking forward for commissioning of DFC to Nhava Sheva, where we will be running timetable train from NCR area to Nhava Sheva. Just imagine a train leaving at 9 o'clock in the morning from Delhi and reaching next day by say 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock Nhava Sheva on DFC. This dream is going to be true in next year, most probably, if DFC is getting commissioned. But we have not waited for commissioning of DFC to Nhava Sheva. We have started giving benefit to our customers, NCR customers, double stack trains benefit, because we have a terminal at Varnama near Baroda, which is 400 kilometers short of Nhava Sheva. So we are running double stack trains from NCR to Varnama. And from Varnama, we are running single stack train, linkers from Varnama to Nhava Sheva. So we are giving benefit to our customers up to Varnama, which is just 400 kilometers short of Nhava Sheva. So once the DFC gets connected to Nhava Sheva, we will be running double stack trains to Nhava Sheva also, which will be a huge shift from road to rail. And as we know, it will be a big contribution, biggest contribution for green logistics. This is our presence. We are present at 4 locations on Western DFC. We are having operating 4 MMLPs on Western DFC at Khatwas, Swarupganj, Dadri and Varnama. 5th one is under commissioning near Ahmedabad at Sanand Charodi. That will also be commissioned in most probably in 1 year time. So we will be connecting Ahmedabad also from this DFC. As you know, this double stack trains is a very big benefit to the customers. As you can see, for the last 3 years, there is a continuous growth in double stack trains. From 22-23 to 23-24, growth was almost 33%. And this year also, we are seeing a growth of around 15% from last financial year. So as Nhava Sheva gets connected on DFC, growth will further propel. We are actually using IT, information technology, in a big way to serve our customers. For the first time in the country, we have used artificial intelligence for running our flagship terminal at Tughlakabad. It's a big success and it gives continuous cargo visibility to our customers. They have welcomed it. So we are going to replicate it at other terminals also. And we have other facilities like e-booking of all the containers. Customers don't have to visit our office. They come to office to have a cup of tea. Otherwise, all their work they can do sitting in their offices. They don't have to come to our office for that. We accept e-forwarding note from shipping lines. We have online request for all the online processing of CPDA requests, etc. We have developed a logistic app also, which is a very big hit with our customers. For first mile, last mile, we use reverse auction mechanism for the first time in the country. Customer can book first mile, last mile service sitting in their offices using the logistics app. It is at present actually, we are able to cater to first mile, last mile of 33% of our volume. We are continuously increasing it, and we hope that by next financial year, we will be able to serve 80% first mile, last mile of all our volumes. That is our target, and we are working towards it steadily. We are very conscious about ESG norms also. As I told you, we, for the first time in the country, we have deployed LNG powered trailers. First LNG fuel station of North India was set up at our MMLP at Khatwas in collaboration with Indian Oil. Second LNG station is coming up at MMLP Dadri in collaboration with IGL. We have given land for that, and they are developing the LNG station. Because of the lack of LNG fuel pumps in North India, the penetration of LNG trailers was not there. As you know, in the winter months, Delhi struggles with the problem of pollution in a big way. So we are quite hopeful that with the LNG coming up in NCR, so this problem will also be taken care of in future. Other environment-friendly initiatives taken by us are, we have done trial of e-RST at our Dronagiri terminal here. Then we are procuring electric vehicles also in freight. At present, actually, electric vehicles we can't use for FMLM because they are running only for 130 kilometers, whereas LNG is running for 1000 kilometers in one fill. So, but lot of R&D is being done in battery technology. And I am told that within 3 years, I think electric vehicles will come for 500 kilometers in one charging. So that will be very helpful for us because 500 kilometers is a decent number. We will be able to serve FMLM customers also with electric vehicles in future. At present, we plan that we will have electric vehicles only for intra-terminal movement within our country, within our terminals. We are using solar-powered energy for some of our terminals, which we plan to replicate to all the terminals. For the first time in the country, we are going for net zero carbon warehouse at Shiriperambur, area of 1,30,000 square feet. It's a massive warehouse that we are going to construct for the first time in the country. So we are very conscious about ESG. We are using IT in a big way. These are the contributions that we are making for logistics infrastructure of our country. And we are doing our bit for realizing the Viksit Bharat dream of our Honorable Prime Minister. Thank you very much. I wish this conference a great success. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you so much, sir. I now invite Ms. Pinky Mehta and Mr. Anil Radhakrishnan to present a memento to Sri Sanjay Swarup as a token of our appreciation. Thank you. We now reach the end of our inaugural session. To formally close the session, may I now invite Mr. Anil Radhakrishnan, CEO of GMR Group, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good morning. In fact, it's my proud privilege to be a part of Bombay Chamber of Commerce. Thanks to many of my seniors sitting here. I've been with the Chamber for quite some time. Before getting into vote of thanks, I just want to share with you the practice of shipping logistics supply chain is one of our important core vertical in the chamber. And what I would like to urge you all is to be actively take part in our efforts. Because what we try to do is to bring all the stakeholders together and see what value we can add to the industry. So what we lacking is we need more support from the industry. So I would urge you, I take this opportunity to urge you all, please make sure in whatever way you can contribute to the chamber, it's good for the industry because we do a lot on the advocacy side. We do a lot in making sure all the stakeholders, the intent is to add more value to the stakeholders. So please join us in this endeavor. This 12th shipping conference, I'm really thankful for all the stakeholders who have supported us. On behalf of Chamber and my personal behalf, I extend sincere thanks to the keynote speaker, Mr. Amitabh Kant. I would like to thank my colleague Padmanabhan, Practice Head on Senior Director, Transport and Logistics, Chrisel, and his entire team for considerable stakeholder engagement to come out with this document, Sustainable Logistics for Viksit Bharat. We intend to utilize this inputs for advocacy with various regulatory bodies. Thanks Mr. Sanjay Swarup for gracing this occasion. The rail connectivity and the intermodal integration, I don't think you have a better person in India to talk about this. And I was once the competitor of Concor. I would say this is one our public sector company who any multinational will look upon because the way it is run professionally and under his leadership, We have seen the kind of initiatives what he has taken is the need for the industry, like 48 hours express train, timetable train. I know it was our wish for almost 2 decades. So now it's getting a reality. And the way he's also running into the ESG, the AI intervention, these are all very, very forward-looking. Thanks, sir. Thanks for being a part of our journey together. Now let me thank all my fellow conference advisory board. The conference would not have been possible without the strong support and guidance of our conference chairman, Mr. Rajiv Jalota. My personal thanks to you, sir, and the way he has driven this conference, the energy and the way he is pushing us, all this is because of your support. Really, thank you for that, and look forward to your more support from your side. Our conference co-chairman, Sri Unmesh Wagh, IRS Chairman, Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust, and our President Pinky Mehta, who has always been our support. And also our other members like Hajra Sahab, Mr. Nambiar, who was instrumental in me being a part of the chamber, Captain Iyer, Ravi, and all of other members. If I've missed out anybody, thank you all for that, for your gracious support. And I also thank our support, our partners for the steadfast support, all who have sponsored us, and also Daily Shipping Times, Kalpesh Bhai, for your continuous support. Now, last but not the least, all the activities and the attainments of the Bombay Chamber cannot be accomplished without the strong and consistent support of our Secretariat. I thank Sandeep, Minal, and rest of the team who did an amazing work. And thank you all for coming today. Thanks a lot, and wishing you all the very best. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And once again, let's have a round of applause to all our distinguished speakers. And thank you so much, guests. We now break for a quick tea. I request everybody to be back here in 15 minutes. That's around 11:45, because we have an exciting day ahead and we have a lot of packed knowledge sessions. So please come back by 11:45. Thank you.